comments.
Well,
I'm
you
willing to
got to
bet that
remember that one of the things I do is voices, and I didn't know this was Obama, but maybe I should try to work it that way a little. I was
I
trying to be a
haven't,
little more
but
like a Southern minister.
let me read some of these comments. I'm willing to bet that some of them are going to back up some of the stuff I'm saying, and then y'all can rebuttal them. I haven't read them. I don't know what they say. Let me read them. This is
Oh,
underneath the
yay.
video
Let's
that I
go to
just
general
played.
internet comments for backing. This is going to be
Because
fun.
people know things. People are smart. That's why I read comments. Let me read this one. It says, the person responsible. I haven't read none of these. I don't know what they're going to say. The first comment, it says, the personal responsibility debate died with the crash of 2008 when people we gave the most responsibility did the least responsible thing and weren't held responsible. Another comment, it says, I find it amazing that the eugenics movement not only determined that the poor are genetically predisposed to poverty, and thus it was futile to help them, because somehow could still believe that they were individually responsible. Another comment, it says, it's amazing that in this information age, the rich are still able to maintain this charade. Another comment, it says, this country has socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for the poor.
Man,
Another comment, it says, one of the greatest cons ever pulled by capitalist society is convincing people that poverty was a moral failing of the individual. Another comment, it says, ever notice that the personal responsibility crowd shifts blame from the individual to the group when it's convenient? Another comment, it says, this is one of those times when you're both amazed and thankful that this kind of quality is available free of charge and at any time you want, whatever. Another one, it says, as someone on the autism spectrum, I feel fortunate to be living in the digital age in which I can work full-time from home. If I were born 50 or 100 years earlier, it would have been extremely difficult for me. I struggled greatly working in business environment full of people. I found it overwhelming and near on impossible to properly focus on my work. In the end, I found enough remote work to rent my own place. But if I were born a little too soon, the
Hey,
theory of
read the show
individual
comments.
responsibility, the show, yeah, I'll read it. It says it says in the end, I found enough remote work. I'll say that. The theory of individual responsibility would assert that career failings or an inability to hold down a real-world full-time job was because of my lack of responsibility. Ultimately, the world would never understand the psychological torment for someone like me to endure normal situations on day-to-day, week-to-week basis. It hurts more to contemplate the scenario because I am a hard-working person with plenty of skills. I can type up to 100 words a minute. Perhaps that is more also to do with a world not designed to take autistic people into account, and it is a criticism of individual responsibility being the answer to everything. Yes, I did figure things out in my case, but some 80% of autistic people are under or unemployed. Not everyone has strong computer skills and other skills related to the sort of work widely available to the remote work sector. Obviously, working from home is not a mental health necessity for anyone with autism. That is my case, but I would be in the same for many others with intense social anxiety, etc. A couple more. Placing the
Pat,
responsibility on the
hey,
powerless is the
comments on the
most.
show. Pat's trying to talk to us.
Okay. Wait. Oh, okay.
Hit the
That's what you were
comments
talking
tab.
about.
Yeah, he's coming in. He's coming in.
Oh, my bad. 316. He says, your government wants you to exploit children. Yes, I agree with that, Pat. He says, you must know my pronouns, but don't if I can't do math. Another comment, he says, I should know about sex before I know how to read. He's talking about the issues with curriculum, which we did kind of talk about. But I always say that a lot of that is the rogue teachers. This is not the majority. Those are the extremes. a couple comments. It says placing the
Much more
responsibility.
surprising than you think. There's a lot more of it going on than you think.
Man, my thing is, bro, I hear your argument, you know what I'm saying, but I think your I I'm not gonna say your argument is invalid, but I think that you need to touch on the full spectrum because the day and time that we live in now, you can't just take a child under your wing and say that you're gonna go into the school system and advocate for a child that's being left behind by its mother and father. You can't do that in this
Well,
day and time.
well, well,
There,
sh-
you
well,
have
shouldn't
no,
we
you
have some
have,
kind of
you,
systems in place to deal with
no,
that? Is it okay to just
no,
leave these
no.
kids to just
They
turn
Yeah,
took
into
we
that shit.
criminals?
They took that shit away.
we do, and
Okay,
that triggers
because
CPS investigation immediately.
And
yeah, it
then,
triggers that, and then we try to take that stuff away because back then you had people that did that shit, and look at how many kids were on the spectrum for being fucking sexually abused and raped and everything else. So it's like you got to take all of this stuff to make your argument, you know, sustainable. In my opinion, you got to take all of that shit into a fact, into an equation. You know what I'm saying? You're not looking at that. You're just looking at as a community, we should step in and do this for this child. This child shouldn't be left behind. This is bullshit. The school system is failing. It's systemic racism. These kids are being left behind in the poor communities and this and
it's
this and that.
it's
But
more
it's like no,
classism.
it's I'm like, but at the end of the day, bro, your hands are tied. In the country that we live in, the world that we live in, your hands are tied. You can't become in the world of investigation and lawsuits and things of this nature, you can't become overly invested in something. You stand to lose so fucking much.
So we should just
You
give up
stand
and let the world
No,
go
I'm
to
not I'm
shit.
not I'm not saying give up. I'm not saying give up, but I'm saying is that there's a bunch of red tape that you have to weed through. You know
He's
what
going
I'm
to use
saying?
that argument
You
anytime we try to be reasonable
if
with
you
him, yet he's never
if you
once said anything about how to do it.
I'm saying
if
how
you
to
want
do
to
it.
go that route,
Funding
No,
into the
you're
but
not. You're
schools.
standing
Shaka,
on a soapbox,
here's the
throwing
way to
out
go. Here's the
cones and
way to go
stuff.
through it. What Doc said, exactly what Doc said. If you really want to help that child that's being left behind in the community, fucking every day, call CPS every day on his parents. Every day, his or her parents. This child is coming to school, not doing. We're gonna launch CPS investigations. I'm that teacher that care. I'm that neighbor that care. So this is what we're gonna do.
And
Okay.
then the kid grows up
Now
in the
how
system and hates you for it.
yeah.
And,
So
and,
now this child is gonna be eventually taken away, you know. So that's what I'm saying, Chaka. Like I feel like you're being unreasonable by not looking at the whole grand scheme of every fucking thing that coincides with the argument that you're trying to make. There's more to the argument than just funding.
The teachers also have to pick and choose their battles.
let me read a couple more comments. It says placing the responsibility on the powerless is the most effective tactic on ruling class any ruling class has in their effort to divide people up into those who are worthy and those who are takers. Another comment, it says, I abandoned the concept of making one's own destiny on December 26, 2005. Jane Kreba was a 10th grader, was out shopping the Boxing Day sales with her mom. She got shot and killed by a stray bullet fired by a gangbanger who never met this girl. She did nothing to make that her destiny. Her personal responsibility meant nothing in relation to the path of her life. You, your own drive and desire and work and effort can all be undone by one drunk driver in an intersection. As much as we write on our own life story, we can't deny the random luck plays as a role. As much as we have personal responsibility, we also have to acknowledge that some of life's terms are outside of our control. Couple more. It says there is quite a difference between saying that we are responsible and that we should take responsibility. Another comment, it says, as I frequently say, my parents' house cost 17,000 while my nephew's cost 400,000. Generations of flat wages make college and home ownership nearly impossible, has nothing to do with character, and hustle culture will not solve gross inequalities. Another one, it says, long ago, as our elders aged, we took them into our homes and fed them. Long ago, if one hunter was not able to harvest any game, the other hunters would share their game. This is a true story. This is a community that would never allow for the robber barons of the industrial age and our modern versions. I want to have a good life, and I can't do that unless I have helped to make yours better. The idea is seen as weakness. It is the opposite. A society built on this idea can be far stronger than neoliberal idea of personal responsibility and how it divides us all from one another. Another comment, it says the problem with achieving financial goal is that one needs others in cooperation, willing or unwilling, knowing or unknowing to do so. There is no such thing as a bad self-made. These are words uttered by egomaniacs, braggarts, and narcissists. Let me read the caption under the video so we can get a gist of it here. It says, humans love to fix things, to find the cause of a problem, to probe, tinker, and mend. We ask in many different ways, why does this happen? What's the root cause? What's the origin? Or who is at fault? What or who is responsible? But there are three subjects that have intertwined with the topic of responsibility. Topic of responsible more than others. The idea of responsibility has many forms, both historically and culturally. Philosophers have debated whether we can be truly responsible for our actions in the context of discussions about free will. Theologians have wrestled with the idea of taking responsibility for our sins. Scientists have joined the discussion by searching for causation and exploring the psychology and neurology of our brains. But today, the idea of individual responsibility is often invoked in discussions about welfare, poverty, and enterprise. Increasingly, throughout the liberal and neoliberal periods, we've, in political and the media at least, emphasized responsibility for ourselves at the expense of other types of responsibilities, moral obligations, or duties. Is poverty a personal inadequacy, a problem of persons, a problem of character, a problem of culture, or is it a problem of place, of systems, of society? The particular form individual responsibility has taken today, atomized, associatal, ideally self-dependent, culturally backward, genetically limited, is a relatively new historical and political concept which is used to justify the dismantling of welfare, the rejection of altruism, and the unraveling of community. Any culture interpretation of responsibility is bound up with politics, language, culture, and society, and has a history that's not simply progressive and linear. Instead of being responsible for ourselves, the concept of mutual obligation or duties include the responsibility to work hard and improve ourselves, but can also better accommodate contributing to the world, aiding others, remembering no man is an island, and turning our gaze not inwards but outwards. I look at this idea of individual responsibility developed in parallel with the history of poverty, looking at Edward Banfield's The Moral Basis of Backward Society, Oscar Lewis' Culture of Poverty, Daniel Moynihan's The Negro Family, Charles Murray's Losing Ground and the Bell Curve, and George Gilder's Wealth and Poverty. We look at poverty and responsibility from the Middle Ages through the Poor Laws to Kennedy, LBJ, the Great Society, the War on Poverty, and the Reagan and Thatcher era, and to Obama and Fox News today. Of course, Jordan Peterson also makes an appearance. He should have did a better job of gisting his show instead of just saying what was in it. Ah, let's see. I think I missed some Pat's comments. He said, I should know about sex before I know about how to read. He says, that's your opinion. Yeah. Y'all ganging up on me. Oh, man. All I'm saying is, how do we make things better? Is moving the people, the kids into these private schools, is that the answer? And if it is the answer, then what do we do with the kids that don't make it into the private schools? How do we fix this dilemma? Do we as a community have obligations to the rest of our community? Are we affected by the negative impacts related to these kids being left behind? You know, how many of these children could have been something, but nobody cared, so they became nothing. They became a bane on society. They became a draw on society. They just became gangbangers, prostitutes, drug addicts, when they could have been astrophysicists. If one person cared about them and paid attention to them and tried to help them out, even if it wasn't one of their parents. And when I say one person, I don't necessarily mean one of us going into the school physically to help them. I'm saying that if you have some kind of systems in place to deal with this issue, you know, like I say, it could have been just one of their coaches. It could have just been one of their teachers. It could have been one of their principals. It could have been one of their counselors in the school that took this kid under their wing and really freaking looked out for them as much as they could.
Looks like we got us another hit.